Okay, Nhung, please.
Yes, my group still my answer my group's answer is uh, um, in China 1H equal 5,000 CNY. So 1 CNY equal to 1 divided 5,000 equal to by 2 times uh, 10 component minus 4. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. Calculate the percentage of the real overvalue and undervalue of currency. Okay. First, can you read it?
Yes. So in China,
So you first compute which one, which currency?
uh, I think that I calculate the USD
Yes.
CNY.
You mean this?
I mean that the VTR.
Okay. VR of USD or CNY?
Of CNY equal to uh 1.487.
Can you read the formula?
Yes. So VR CNY equal to 1 divided by E times P sao star.
Mm,
Oh,
one
you mean 1 divided by ER
ER
minus
minus
1?
one. Okay. Then you 1 divided by, you mean what is ER?
Uh, E, ER, uh, E times P sao. P sao in here is uh, USD price of
Okay.
1H.
Okay. And then please plug the information into this formula.
So 1 divided by 6.726H
What is P star?
and these are 1,000
Okay.
divided by 5,000 minus 1.
Okay. And what is your result?
Yes, so the reason is um, minus 2.565 times 10 minus 9.
Can you give me the final result? What is your final result?
Yes, so um, 25. The result of this calculation is 0.2.
Sorry, can you read it? Can you read it?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
It is minus 1.256.
You mean that when I draw it up, minus
Yes.
1.26, okay, percent, right? Am I right?
No, it is minus 0.26.
Minus 0.26%.
No, not percent. If it's percent, it is 26%.
Okay. This right? Please have a check about that to make sure that your result is correct, because it's just a matter of calculation. Okay, and then we have for USD, right? And what is the result for the USD?
It is 0.35.
0.25%? No.
0.35.
0.25, okay.
3 is 3. 0.3. I mean 0.3.
This one, right?
No, 0.35, not 235.
You mean this?
Is yeah.
0.35?
Yeah.
So quite different. Like they change.
I don't know. I just make the calculation.
Why they quite different in the magnitude? Let me check something wrong in this formula. 1,000. It should be I'm sorry, but let me correct this information to correspond with our reality. The US rate, this is the not comma. This should be the point. The dot is not the comma. Is there any change in the result?
No, I calculate it. It's the point.
Okay. So you already know this should be the point, right? 6.7268, right? That is
Yes.
the exchange rate of the US against the Chinese yuan. Okay, and the result is minus 26%, okay? And for the VR of the USD, the result is 35%. Is this correct or not?
Yes, we calculate it by computer.
Okay, I see. 35%. Okay, and then what is the explanation? What is your comment for the position of international trade competitiveness between the two countries? What are your comments here? What are your explanation here? Nhung?
So I think that because the VRCNY is less than the zero, so the foreign currency is real overvalued, and the domestic currency is real undervalued. So the position of international chess competitiveness of foreign of USD is low. So the competitiveness of China is improved.
It's higher or it's improved?
Is higher.
It's higher. Please make sure that when we have the result of the static form, we only can make the conclusion about the trade competitiveness is higher or lower. Okay. When we have the dynamic form, we can make the conclusion about whether the trade competitiveness is improved or not. When we use different exchange rate, Khánh Huyền, please have.
Em ơi, thầy là công thức VR em tưởng bằng âm 0,26 thì là âm 0,26% luôn ạ. Sao lại nhân với 100% để ra âm 26?
This, if we have the 0.26, this is just the 0.26. When we multiply 100%, so it comes to those 26. When multiply 100, so it becomes the 26%. So, any confused here? Do you still feel confused about this?
No, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, can we move on? For this, during the lecture, I usually use the exchange rate between USD and VND. Okay, so usually I refer Vietnam as the domestic and our domestic country, right? Domestic economy, and the U.S. as the foreign country. But when we apply this concept for other exchange rate, so we please refer to the commodity currency, and the term currency. So in here, USD is the commodity currency and the CNY is the term currency. And when we have the VR or we have the ER, so we only make a conclusion about whether the trade competitiveness is higher or lower. And to justify whether the trade competitiveness is improved or damaged, so we come to the concept of the dynamic formula, dynamic form of the real exchange rate. Okay, this is the relative form of the real exchange rate. We denote the relative form of the real exchange rate like a kind of the index. We denote it at E0RT, E subscript 0, subscript RT, okay? So 0 and T is capture the terms, the point of term from 0 to T, and R capture the real exchange rate. E0RT equal to E0T multiply the CPI of the foreign country or in the country that have the commodity currency, okay? And CPI from the period 0 to T or between the periods 0 and T divided by CPI of the domestic economy, CPI between the periods 0 T and all multiply 100%. And CPI here is the consumer price index. And in this formula, E0T is the index. This is the bilateral nominal exchange rate index, right? This is the bilateral nominal exchange rate index. E0T is equal to ET divided by E. And we have the CPI, the consumer price index, is kind of the index. Okay, the index is a ratio of a variable between the two periods. In here, between the periods T and periods 0. So we have the definition of the CPI. CPI 0T is equal to the price level in the periods T divided by the price level in the period 0, and we have the star for the foreign country and without star for the domestic country, okay? And this formula provides the way to compute the E0RT. This one. And how to derive this formula. So in the next slide, provide us the way to derive E0RT, why we have such formula. So the reason is as follows. Okay. Remember that now we study the relative form of the bilateral real exchange rate. The relative form. The relative mean we divided the variable in two periods, right? So in here, we have E0RT, okay? So this is the relative form, so it should be a ratio of the ERT, the real exchange rate at the time t divided the real exchange rate at the time zero, and ERT and ER0 is the real exchange rate at the static form, right? Just at the point of the T0 and T here. Okay, what are the ERT and ER0? So ERT here, this is the formula of the ERT. We just use or incorporate the subscript T, okay? ET multiply P star T divided by PT, and we do the same. Just use the 0 here for the time 0. And after we have this, we can rearrange. We rearrange this. So we have the ratio of the bilateral nominal exchange rate, ET divided by E0, okay? For P star, okay, we have P star T here and P star 0 here. Put them together, we have the ratio, right, of the price level in the foreign country. And in here, we also have the inverse ratio of the price level in the domestic currency, okay? And then we come to this, the notation. ET divided by E0 is the E0T, okay? It's the index of the bilateral nominal exchange rate, E0T. And this ratio denoted by the CPI 0T in the foreign country. And this is, we put, take the inverse, okay? In the denominator, we come to the CPI in the domestic currency. And please make sure to understand the relationship between the inflation, okay? CPI and GDP deflator are the price level. If you still remember in the macroeconomics, we have several ways to express the price level of a country, okay? And the two most common ways are the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, and GDP deflator. Those are the most common measure of the price level. And usually we denote P, capture the price level, okay? And CPI, when we have this, we write it at the CPI 0T, okay? This is the ratio between the PT and P0, or CPI T and CPI 0. And the inflation, what is the inflation? Inflation is the growth rate of the price level. Inflation is the growth rate of the price level. And we can express the relationship between the CPI 0T and inflation. CPI 0T equal to 1 plus inflation, okay? So let me remove this one for you. Oh, I can. The relationship between CPI 0T and inflation. CPI 0T equal to 1 plus inflation. So from this formula, okay, we can have alternative form. We can have the E0T multiply 1 plus inflation in the foreign country. So pi t star here, right? And divided by 1 plus pi t. Pi mean this, okay? This the inflation we treat pi. So another way to express this formula is that E0T multiply 1 plus pi t star divided by 1 plus pi t. Okay, this is the way to express the ratio index, the real exchange rate, or the relative form of the bilateral real exchange rate in terms of the inflation. Okay, that's our theory. Now we apply to do the exercise. I forget. We should have the explanation for the change in the international trade competitiveness. Okay, after we have the E0 RT, so we have some conclusion. The implication of the changes in the real exchange rate. Okay, so when the real exchange rate increase, it leads to a decrease in the relative purchasing power of the domestic currency, and it leads to an improvement in international trade competitiveness of that country. Let me correct this. Okay, so when we compute the E0 RT, and in here we focus on the last part, we multiply with 100%. So we compare with 100%. If E0 RT is greater than 100%, so the real exchange rate increase, and we can conclude that there's a decrease in the relative purchasing power of the domestic currency, there is an improvement in the international trade competitiveness of that country. By contrast, when E0 RT is less than 100%, so there's a decrease in the real exchange rate. And we can say that there's an increase in the relative purchasing power of the domestic currency, or there's an damage, or that's erode the international trade competitiveness of that country. Okay, so when we have the static form, we make a conclusion where the international trade competitiveness of a country is higher or lower than its trading partner. But when we compute the relative form, we can conclude whether the international trade competitiveness of that country improve or erode or damage. Okay. So that's the way we apply the concept of the relative form of real exchange rate to the international trade competitiveness of a country. Okay, now we apply what we have learned to do the question 4. Question 4. Please do it by yourself. I will ask one of you to show your answer to your classmate. Question 4, please.
Alo. Alo. Vâng rồi. 156. Ngõ. Ok. Ngõ 156 nhé.
Okay. Who can do question 4? Khánh Huyền, please.
E0RT equal
Please wait for a while. I will show the board. Okay, let's go ahead.
E0RT equal
E0 RT equal to
E0T,
E0T
yeah, multiply em đọc tiếng Việt được không ạ?
Please do English.
Inflation of the USA.
Just inflation. That's spell pi.
Em thấy em xin phép đọc tiếng Việt ạ. Lạm phát của đô la Mỹ cộng với 1 trên lạm phát của Việt Nam cộng với 1 ạ. Nhân
Okay, this is the 1 plus pi star, right? Divided by 1 plus pi. You mean that's right?
và
This pronounced pi. Okay, that
times 100% and
Okay.
equal 2800 chia 22626.
Okay, divided by this, right?
Yes, and 1 plus 2%.
2 or 2%?
2%.
Okay, please make sure that 2% is equal to 0.02. Okay, don't forget the percent. Multiply 100. Okay, what is your result?
It is 93.87%.
93 point
87%.
93.87%. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So that is the real exchange rate in the dynamic form. Okay. So what are your comments on the
So
change? of
the
interest
real exchange rate decreased,
rate?
and
The real exchange rate decrease.
so there is an increase in the relative purchasing power of Vietnam đồng.
Okay, Vietnam Miss Dong increase the relative purchasing power
Erode international trade competitiveness of Vietnam.
Erode or improve.
Erode.
Okay. Am I right?
Yes.
That's all.
Yes.
Okay. So in here you just focus on the Vietnam country, and we make an opposite explanation for USD, right? So USD decrease the relative purchasing power and improve the US trade competitiveness. Okay. Okay, thank you. That's the answer to the question 4. Okay, we just finished the bilateral exchange rate, and we have two forms of the two types of the exchange rate: the nominal and the real exchange rate. And what we have done so far, we just focus on the two currency. Okay, but in the market, this currency can increase against one currency and decrease against another currency. So how to capture the value of one currency in terms of the other currency or the rest of the currency? So in that case, we need another concept, the multilateral exchange rate. And similar to the bilateral exchange rate, we have the two forms of the multilateral exchange rate: the nominal multilateral exchange rate and the real multilateral exchange rate. Okay, so first, we study the nominal effective exchange rate. Nominal effective exchange rate, denoted by REER, nominal effective exchange rate. It's also referred to the average exchange rate. Okay, nominal effective exchange rate is the average exchange rate index of one currency relative to other currency. Nominal effective exchange rate indicates one currency appreciates or depreciates against the rest of currency in the markets. Okay, so we pick up the currency, a basket or a bundle of the currency, and we compute the NEER, and then we can make some conclusion about whether one currency appreciate or depreciate against the bundle of currency, or currency in the bundle. And how to compute the nominal effective exchange rate? Okay, we apply these 3 steps to compute the nominal effective exchange rate. Okay, in the first step, we have determined the basket, the bundle of the currency. Okay, we have different way to determine the currency bundle, but the most common way we rely on the trade, the relative importance of trade, the bilateral of the trade flow in that country. So usually we rank the trade volume of a currency with their trading partner. Okay, we rank from highest to the lowest, and we pick up those currency have the relative high the trade with that country. Like for the case of Vietnam, we trade with most of the country in the world, right? So we have now, according to the IMF and the World Bank, we have more than 200 countries and territories. And usually when we compute the nominal effective exchange rate, we rank the trade of Vietnam with this country, and we pick usually we pick just 30 countries that have the highest the trade, the weight, the highest weight with Vietnam. We don't pick all of the currency that we have trade with them. We just pick the 20 to 30 currency that trade most with Vietnam. Okay, so that's the step one. We pick the currency. We pick the currency and of the country that trade most with Vietnam, and usually when we rank them, and we just pick around 20 to 30 currency in the list. In the second step, okay, after we pick or after we decide the basket of currency, we need to compute the weight of each currency in the basket. And again, we use the weight in the international trade. Okay, so if we decide that we have 30 currency, okay, so we have the trade between Vietnam and these 30 countries, and then we have the trade volume data, and then we can compute the weight, the proportion of the international trade. And the formula is as follow. We denote the weight here, the W. Okay, the trade weight of a currency equal to the ratio of the trade volume. So that country with Vietnam. So in here, the trade volume equal to the total of the export and import. Okay, and divided by the total trade. Because we decide that we have 30 currency, okay, so we in here, N, the N is they run from 1 to 30, and we just take the sum of the trade volume of 30 country. So after step 2, we have the trade weight of each country, and that represents the proportion of currency in the basket of the currency basket. Okay, and finally, in the step 3, we can compute the multilateral nominal exchange rate. So NEER equal to the sum of the W is the trade weight, right? Multiply a ratio of the exchange rate. This just capture the bilateral nominal exchange rate index. Okay, so we have in here the E. In here we have, so WJ is the trade weight, right? And ET t divided by E0 here. Okay, this is just the bilateral nominal exchange rate index. Okay, so this is the formula. This is one way to compute the nominal exchange rate, and this we apply the average. Okay, the sum in just the average, the sum average of the bilateral nominal exchange rate ratio. So another way to compute the nominal effective exchange rate, we use the different formula. We use like the average multiple to compute the nominal effective exchange rate. Let me show you the second way to compute the nominal, the NEER. Okay, let me draw this. It's easy to so we have here NEER, right, is equal what? We use the multiple or multiply. Here I use this pi, capital Pi. This denote trung bình nhân with I from 0. Let me divide from 1. So if n is 30, we have n equal to 30. Okay, and inside we have the ET. ET divided by E0. And in here, with the to the power of the WE, okay? WE. This another way. In Vietnamese, this formula, trung bình nhân. Trung bình nhân. In our slide here, trung bình cộng. This is just the two way to compute the nominal effective exchange rate. Okay, and after we compute the NEER, so we can make some conclusion. Okay. Mm-hmm. After we compute the NEER, okay, so we compare with 100. We have the NEER, okay, so we compare with 100. NEER equal to 100. So if NEER is greater than 100, what are the conclusions we can withdraw? What are conclusions we can withdraw when we have the NEER is greater than 100. So like for the case we compute the NEER of Vietnamese dong against a bundle of currency, and after we calculate, we compare with 100, and in the first case, NEER is greater than 100. So how could we conclude for this case? So in here, Vietnamese dong depreciate, right? Against okay. And when we have less than 100, so Vietnamese dong appreciates against the bundle of currency or against that each trading partner currency. So this is the way to compute the nominal effective exchange rate, and the way to explain the result. Okay, and when we have the information of the NEER, can we make conclusion about the trade competitiveness of a country with their trading partner? And the answer is no, because this is just the nominal exchange rate, a kind of nominal exchange rate. When we have the nominal effective exchange rate, we cannot make any conclusion about the international trade competitiveness between Vietnam and its trading partners. To do that, we need to use the concept of the real effective exchange rate. Okay, the real effective exchange rate is the nominal multilateral exchange rate adjusted by the domestic inflation with all remaining countries. And how to compute the real effective exchange rate? We apply the same process as the real bilateral exchange rate, okay? Remember the formula of the real bilateral exchange rate. ER equal to E, capital E, right? Multiply P star divided by P, okay? And we do the same, but in here we just replace the corresponding notation. So in order to compute the real effective exchange rate, we need to go through to 3 steps. In the step 1, we have to compute the nominal effective exchange rate. And in the step 2, we need to compute the average inflation index of own currency. And that's capture the won inflation. Okay, please look to this, okay? In the step 2, we have to compute the average inflation index of own currency. So we already have the CPI. We have the CPI of each country, okay? So the average inflation index, okay, denoted by CPI, This is the average the CPI index. Okay. This is not the inflation. This is the average price level. Is